Well, hello there. How's it going? It's your friend Mike Squires, and also your other friend, Mr. Big, here with Couch Riffs Podcast, episode number 211. Or, if you're from Granite Falls, 211. And my guest, Chris Carlone. Chris, also known as Borts Minorts. I was very happy to learn where that name came from in our conversation. Borts has let me tell you about Chris. Chris is a lifelong musician, artist, creator, video and visual arts, and musician, singer, drummer, guitarist. He's in everything. He's an everything guy. And he's amazing. You should go watch the crazy stuff that he makes. He makes things like kind of like Couch Riffs videos, but where he plays everything, and it's bonkers and it's beautiful and it is art in the way that man, I wish I had the energy and the focus to do something so cool by myself. He's incredible. He has a new EP out under the Borts Minorts name, along with Hug Victim, which is our friend Timo Ellis. They've collaborated on things in the past. I don't know if they've done music in the past, but done some video stuff. And oh, hello. And it is, as you would expect, when these two characters, join forces. Bananas. It is fucking bananas, and it's beautiful. And there's videos to see. The EP is called Brute. You should listen to it. You should go buy it at Bandcamp. You should watch the videos. You should do all of it. You should support both of these folks in any way you possibly can, because they're radical. Really enjoyed talking with Chris. It was really inspiring. So I hope that you enjoy this as well. If you are enjoying the Couch Riffs podcast or the videos that we create, the performance videos, which there is one coming up, hopefully within a couple weeks, with Chris singing lead vocals, and it was awesome. It's one of my favorite songs. Please support us at Patreon, patreon.com/couchriffs. That's what makes this happen, you guys. I'm not pulling your leg. It really, really, really is what makes this work. So thank you to everyone who is supporting, and thank you for listening, watching, subscribing, hitting the bell, all the stuff, sharing these things. I really, really, really thank you, because all of that stuff helps. And I want to thank Variety Coffee Roasters in Brooklyn, New York, at Variety Coffee Roasters on social media, varietycoffeeroasters.com. Go check out their website. Check out their subscription service. You run out of coffee sometimes. You wake up in the morning and you're like, shit, I don't have any fucking coffee. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Mr. Big, you're shaking the camera. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Well, you know what? Sign yourself up for a Variety Coffee subscription, and you're never going to have that problem. Nobody wants to not have coffee in the morning, and also no one wants to deal with your grumpy ass if you don't have coffee. So, Variety has figured it out. Go click a couple buttons, figure out if you want to get it every week, every 2 weeks, or every month, and voila, it just shows up at your house as requested, and everyone's happy, including me. Thank you, Variety. I drink Variety every morning. That I don't know what other endorsement to give. So I'm a coffee asshole, and I drink it. So thank you, Variety. You guys are fucking aces. Now we're going to get into the episode. Thank you, Chris, for giving me so much time and telling your beautiful story. You're fucking great. You know what? All you guys are great. Unless you don't practice the golden rule. Don't be a fucking asshole and treat people the way you want to be treated. Yeah, it's a weird thing because it counts down from 6. Who picked that number? Someone chose that number, a programmer or someone.
They had
or
a
like
meeting
the
about it.
CEO.
Exactly.
Yeah, how do you get a job title like that? Like, I'm the countdown number picker.
Countdown. Exactly.
Ist.
Countdownist.
The countdown pickerist. That's it. That'd be a good gig.
Oh, totally.
I'm always looking for a new creative gig.
Right. You can pretty much invent anything you want in the world.
That is a fantasy job for me.
It can happen.
Aside from not having one is a
Right.
fantasy.
Hey, but look at what you're doing here. You've created this amazing thing. It's so cool, right?
It's super fun. I get to talk to folks like yourself.
Yeah, like I mean, I really admire what you've built here, and yeah, it's really cool.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed the podcast, and it's fun as an artist to get to listen to other artists talk about how they do what they do. Like that's what I like
Right.
about it the most, is like I actually get inspired from it, and so it's
Tell me something really quick. Tell me about the warm.
The warm.
Yeah, tell me about the warm where you live.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it. The warm.
Yeah.
It's more like it's kind of like if you could try to imagine like living on the sun. It's kind of like that. It's like,
Is it that hot there now?
it's no. Actually, it's so nice. This is the thing. Tucson and Arizona, the weather is just incredible for like 3/4 of the year. And then depending on where you are, like Tucson, or even worse, Phoenix, the spring into summer is just brutal. The beginning of spring, it's like, it's okay. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's next level. We're talking like, you'll get a stretch of like, 110, like 108. But there's no humidity. So it's like a different kind of beast. It's like,
I lived
I'm
in
not
the
saying,
desert for a while.
yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's like, it doesn't take away from, how intense it is. But at the same time, yeah, like something like, it's just different than like the New York City, like waiting for the subway, like,
Right.
sweating just
It's
profusely.
like 85%
right.
humidity.
Yes. Like, which is
No
just brutal.
airflow.
Right. It's, yeah.
What's your preference? If you had to choose an extreme heat, would you choose the dry heat where you are?
I just choose the heat, to be honest. I'm one of those weirdos. I just love the heat. Like, I mean, if I had to choose, I definitely am going to go with the dry heat.
Yeah.
But I also love, like,
There's just
there is
less
something
shirt
about
changing.
that's
You go
that's
through
true.
less
Also,
pairs of underwear. It's
exactly. It's for those reasons I'm going to go with the dry heat. But yeah, I do like this sort of. I grew up in Miami, so it's
Oh.
this like totally tropical heat. It's like, it's like New York. It's like very humid, but something about the tropical air is like, I just love. I'm not a cold weather guy, really.
You would
I mean, I
not
don't
want
mind it for I don't mind it for a couple months. Like in New York, like I lived in New York for many years, just left there, and I always love winter for like, like until like the end of January, and then it's like, all right, I'm done. But the reality is, you've got like 3 more months of just like
this
trudging
winter's
through.
been a little rough.
It looks like it. It looks cold. Like even the pictures, I look at the picture and I can feel the chill coming through the pictures.
There's just like
Yeah.
a sheet of ice that covers our whole property, and then it warmed up, so it got slushy
Mm-hmm.
and
Beautiful.
and leveled and flat, and then it dipped down again, so that turned to just like glass ice.
Mhm.
Like you can't walk
yeah.
on it. I've
I'm-
fallen a half dozen times just
I'm very familiar.
on my ass.
Yeah.
And
The
then
best
it
is-
snowed again, and so there's these 2 layers.
Yes, it adds right onto it. It's like,
It's bananas, man.
my favorite is when in New York City, when you go to step into the curb and you don't realize that it's not that it's not actually the ground. It's actually like an ice puddle, and it looks like the street because it's the same
right
color as
through
the
it.
street, and you go right. Ah!
And then you've just got like one soggy, cold, icicle, miserable foot.
That's the beauty of New York City. That's when you're living. That's when you're living. You're just
What's
like,
the ugly part of it?
That is, we can't talk about that.
So wait a minute. You grew up in Miami?
Yeah, I grew up in Miami. It's weird. I lived there till I was 11,
Okay.
and I I moved away when I was 11, and I've never been back. It's so
Ever.
weird. Never been back. I've been to northern Florida because my dad ended up moving to near like Daytona, St. Augustine, sort of around that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to Florida, but all my family used to be in Miami, and they all left in, I'd say, like the 90s or something. So I meant to go back. I would love to go back and visit. And living in New York, I was always like, oh, I'm going to go to Miami this winter and, check out where I'm from. And I just never made it back for some, because it's so out of the way. You have to just go to
Right.
Miami because you want to go there.
It's
But
not on
and
the
all
way to
my family,
anything. It's on the way to Key
No,
West, maybe,
yeah, exactly. But it was a neat place to live as a kid and be there. The time I was there is, it was in the 70s, growing up in the 70s. So there was a lot of like music, and like disco was huge, and like, you could really feel it was a wild time there.
Yeah.
And my parents were, they were super into disco and stuff. So it was like, that was a big part of being a kid there. So
Didn't the
um,
Bee Gees make a bunch of their records in Miami?
that I didn't know that, but that would make sense. The Bee Gees were just blasting eh, like it was like, it was like the soundtrack to Miami. Although, yeah, in the 70s, yeah, the whole
Right.
disco thing. But yeah, I moved around a lot though, so I lived there till I was 11, and then then we moved to Louisiana, which was which was like a totally different thing. I was like right outside of New Orleans on the other side of the lake, and I lived there in this little town called Slidell, and I lived there till I was 14.
Those are formative years, 11 to
Yeah.
14.
Yep.
What kind of stuff were you getting into for that 3 years stretch?
When I was in
Or
Slidell
yeah.
in Louisiana, those were very formative years because I was always super into music. But those were the years where it was like MTV came out, like when it first started. And I remember
Yeah.
seeing like videos of like Public Image Limited or something, or like Devo, like Satisfaction, and just being like, oh my God. Like I can't, I was just like, it was like I was paralyzed in front of the TV. And um so that's when I started experimenting. Just like, can I cut my hair? Like, I just always wanted to do something like different or weird. Or I started, getting really inspired by new wave and stuff. And as a young kid there, and I actually, yeah, I ended up seeing my first punk show right before I left Louisiana. When I was living there in Baton Rouge, I actually hung out every day as a kid at this record store that was right by my house in the
Wow.
small town I lived in. And the two people that worked at the record store were probably about, like, they're probably in their early 20s.
They
And
seemed old as
every day after
hell.
school, yeah, oh yeah, it's so funny looking back now. And but I would go there every day after school and hang out and like ask if they could order records for me and stuff. And they took a liking to me, I guess. And they kind of just like initiated me. And so they actually took me to see my second concert ever, which was Cyndi Lauper. I was totally in love with Cyndi Lauper. Like
Sure.
as a like a 13-year-old, I was like, oh my God, I'm so in love. I like I ordered the album from her first band, Blue Angel, because I had read about it like in
Yeah.
Rolling Stone or something. And so they ordered it for me. And I don't think they were punk rock, and they were like, what is this, like teeny bopper shit? And so, but they were totally nice, and they ordered the record for me. And then they took me to see Cyndi Lauper play in New Orleans on the Riverboat President, which was this riverboat, actual old riverboat that was like 100 years old or something. And it had amazing concerts back in the day. Like I remember like Big
Whoa.
Country played on it, U2, Cyndi Lauper, like all of the up and coming like new wave bands, all kinds of bands would play on the boat, and the boat would leave the dock in the harbor in New Orleans, and it would go down the Mississippi River, and there'd be a concert on the boat. So I begged my parents to let the kids at the guys at the record store take me to my second concert, which was Cyndi Lauper.
What was
And
your
then
first concert?
my first concert was Kiss. And
Yeah.
yes, oh man, I started out with just straight up like rock and roll and
Oh.
heavy metal. Like when I was, like 7, would chase the ice cream man down for Kiss cards, and like, had all the dolls, and like,
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
just like I was just I to this day know every single micro lick of every Ace Frehley solo, and like, so I'm a lover of music, like, but
How
the new wave
magic
thing,
was
yeah.
Kiss to
Oh
kids?
my God.
If you were a kid in the 70s, Kiss was everything.
Absolutely. What a brilliant, brilliant idea. Like, I mean, they were larger than life superheroes in like the most ferocious rock and roll band ever, like for a 7-year-old.
I remember a kid, I must have been in the second grade, and we were listening to Kiss on my little, portable cassette thing, but after, like at recess or whatever, and he was like, Peter Criss is the fastest drummer in the world. And I believed him. And I gave that merit. I believed him and gave it merit.
And you could listen to the solo on, I think, God of Thunder on Kiss Alive 2, and where they put all that deep flange on the like,
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, that's the fastest drummer in the world right there.
Right there.
But
It doesn't,
yeah,
no
no,
amount faster can
yeah,
any drummer be.
never. Yeah. Oh yeah. Kiss was just a huge inspiration for me. And yeah. But yeah, I love Kiss. I mean, I still love Kiss. They make me kind of want to throw up in my mouth a little bit sometimes when I listen to interviews with like Gene Simmons and stuff. But nowadays,
Right.
but
It's
man,
kind of like
you
eating
put on
dried papaya. It's kind of tastes like throw up, but it's also sweet and delicious.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good analogy for Kiss. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I put on like Hotter Than Hell and like listen to, I mean, Paul Stanley, it's like just so hilarious. Like, just like,
He's amazing, though.
oh my God, hit those moves where he gets those little side kicks going, and like, just like, so awesome. What a show,
for
man.
what they did already, they can do whatever they want now. I just don't care.
It's
like,
true.
Go ahead, you guys.
Give it to him. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
fucking 70
like,
and
do the 8th like farewell tour, and like,
don't care. Don't care. They can do whatever they want. They got a carte blanche. They've just got the pass from me.
I'm with you. I'll
make
give
fun
him the
of
pass too. Yeah. But,
so okay, I'm sorry we took a side trip.
No, yeah.
Anytime Kiss gets brought up, I like to go down that road.
Oh, hell yeah. What's your favorite Kiss album?
Oh, I mean, I know that real purists will go for like the first 3 records. I'm a big Destroyer fan because, that record is the first record I ever bought with my own money. And also one of the great underappreciated songs in the Kiss catalog, Great Expectations.
Oh, yes.
Is maybe my favorite. I mean, it embodies everything about it's just like, it's over the top.
The cheese levels are skyrocketing.
And floofy.
Yes.
It almost gives you a hint. It gives you a glimpse into The Elder. It's like,
I love The Elder.
Yeah, no, it's fucking amazing.
Oh, The Elder.
But it's like,
rules.
Here's what's coming. But then it's got all the tacky sexual, like, it's not even innuendo. Tacky. It's like,
it's just
you
so
see
over the
what
top.
my tongue can do. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, just yeah.
It's incredible.
It is. It really that's true. That is, you nailed it. You described it perfectly. Yep. Yeah.
I can't
So,
believe
yeah.
you got to see them as a 7-year-old though. That would
Oh,
have
yeah. No, no, no. So I saw Kiss. I'm sorry. This is kind of sad, actually. Well, yeah, it's funny. So I started with Kiss at 7 years old. My mom took me to the department store and she said, pick out any record you want. And I stood there in front of all the top selling albums. And the two records I was just like, couldn't decide between. One was the Grateful Dead Blues for Allah, which had a skeleton playing the violin on the cover. And
looks
then the
cool.
other one was Kiss Alive 2. And like on the back of the record, you see Gene Simmons just like with blood going everywhere. And I was just like, oh God. And I stood there and my mom was finally like, come on, pick a record. And I was like, Kiss. And I feel like it was the decision of my life. I made the decision of my life right there. And
That
so
was a really important decision.
very, very important. But I wouldn't end up seeing Kiss until the Lick It Up tour, which was, I believe, 1982 or something like that. And so the year before, they had come to New Orleans, and I begged my mom and dad to let me go see them on the Creatures of the Night tour, which would have been, I would have preferred to see that tour.
Sure.
But they were like, next year you'll be old enough to go. And then the next year they were like, MTV's we have a special feature. Kiss is going to be taking off their makeup. And it was like, and then I remember that when they did that, and it was like, oh no, put it back on, please. Just put it.
Right. This isn't very cool. This isn't exciting. It's not
Yeah.
rad.
I just
like it was
no.
rad.
But they did have the leftover set from Creatures of the Night. So the stage was a giant tank, which was cool. And Vinnie Vincent was playing guitar, who I have a strange fascination with because he's just what a weird dude. But that's a whole other conversation. We'll talk about that later. But Riot opened up, who are like, I don't know if you know the band Riot, but they're like fucking just what an epic, awesome, weird band. I mean, not weird, just a fucking dirty rock and roll band. And then Vandenberg too. It was Riot, Vandenberg. Wow. Yeah. So I went from Riot, from Kiss to Cyndi Lauper. And then and then I just never stopped being all over the place, And yeah.
Did you play a lot of instruments? Were you in school band as a kid?
No, I always wanted to play drums, and I begged my parents for a drum set, and they were like, maybe if we move somewhere up north with a basement, we'll get you a drum set someday. But in the meantime, play soccer, and so I never I was never, I was never given any, as much as I had. I bought my own drumsticks at a music store, and I would set up pillows and play those Peter Criss drum solos. And I should have been given a drum set, my parents are amazing, but that was maybe one thing. Okay. They should have done that one, but whatever. Anyways. And so, I never actually got my first instrument till I was like 18, and I got a guitar, for Christmas, acoustic guitar, I think 17 actually, but but drums, I didn't play drums till I was 17, and had a roommate who had a drum set, and I was like, finally, please let me play your drums. And so it just came, I've been playing on pillows that it was just like, I could play any AC/DC song immediately.
Right. Yeah. I think that was probably the first thing that I did on drums.
The best band to learn how to play drums to. Just put on some headphones, put on the Back in Black album, and that's the perfect learning song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did this roommate, did they give you some foundational stuff to work with, or?
No, not really. He would end up, the drummer guy that was my roommate, end up being one of my closest friends to this day. And we would go on to be in like about 100 bands together. He's an incredible drummer. And, but yeah, not really. I just sort of like, he was just super cool and was like, yeah, if I'm at work, and I would work late at night and he would work during the day. So it was like perfect. He was super nice and was like, maybe leave me a little bit of weed, and, have fun, have at it. And so I would just put headphones on and just put on AC/DC albums, and and just keep building on that. But really,
we have some mutual friends.
I am not surprised.
From Timo.
I am not surprised.
Steve Miller.
Oh, that's right. Oh man, Steve Miller is awesome. I had some wild fun times with Steve Miller.
I love Steve so
Yeah.
much.
Steve's a great guy. Steve, I mean, this exact period I'm talking about was when I met Steve.
Right.
Um, and yeah, he was friends with he I worked at this cafe that was like the cool cafe in town. This is when I lived in Tucson,
Mm-hmm.
that where like all the weirdos would hang out in the 80s. And, if you weren't like in the mainstream, and you could meet other weird kids. And I met Steve at the cafe there where I was washing dishes. And he had a friend who was like this really cute, super deadhead girl. And, and I believe that this would be my first Grateful Dead experience after all those years after having to make that decision. I listened to the album Blues for Allah, like,
The album.
yeah, which was the album, and dropped a little LSD,
Sure.
and the girl was like, "You got to put a blindfold on for like the first like
Oh.
half hour, and then take it off, like when the acid was kicking in and the Grateful Dead was playing." And I was like, "Now I understand." Whoa.
Do you still understand?
I do actually. It's
Yeah.
funny because I was never a Deadhead. I never followed the Dead, but I always have had an appreciation for him. And so, it's weird. Like uh, back in the 80s and the 90s, like it was kind of like if you were into like heavy rock or metal or punk, like you could not like the Grateful Dead. It was just not allowed. Like,
Tell that to Greg Ginn.
yeah. Well, what a sick guitar player. I mean, that makes sense, but I didn't know that he liked the Grateful Dead. But
Oh
anyways,
yeah.
in a social world, like it was sort of like I have a daughter who's 18, and she has such a vast music taste, and she loves the Grateful Dead, and she loves Queen, and and she loves heavy rock and thrash and whatever. She likes it all, like I did. But I just remember back in the day, it was sort of like I felt like I had to keep it quiet that I liked the Grateful Dead.
Right.
But it wasn't. It also at times to me was sort of like, this is real, kind of like it was either it sounded bad sometimes, and then sometimes it sounded
Yeah.
good. It was like their harmonies were off, and they were like just like a little out of tune, and it was like. But I also kind of appreciated that too,
Right.
because I'm always been a fan of music that wasn't perfect.
What always seemed like something that was achievable. It wasn't like virtuoso,
Yeah,
uh, you know,
there's a lot
show
of
offery.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of noodling for sure, but
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So I was
Well,
never a Deadhead, but I always appreciated them. And then I married a woman who loved the Grateful Dead, and that deepened my appreciation. And but I always kept it as like that was her thing, and I appreciate them, and that kind of thing.
if it just comes with the home, and when I'm, then you got to accept it.
Yeah, it's just
They say for better or worse.
yeah, that's a smart thing to do. Is like find a way to like it. But no, it was I definitely appreciate them.
Did you know Bill Patton? Did you know
Um,
Bill? He was from there,
from
and
Tucson.
yeah,
That name sure sounds familiar.
he was a friend of Steve's from down there. I ended up being in a band with him in Seattle.
Oh,
He's
wow,
great,
gosh. Yeah.
really talented musician. I think he had some kind of punkabilly band down there, and they would all like dress. They would basically doing the Cramps kind of thing. But
That's very Tucson-like. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm sure after this, I'm going to look up Bill Patton and be like, of course. And then I'll
yeah,
be embarrassed
tall
that I couldn't
fella.
remember. Yeah. Hmm.
Until you meet him, when you realize he's a sweet and funny guy, he looks a little bit like
Like he
an
could,
axe murderer. Not
Nice.
really, but kind of. He was a little scary looking to me. Anyway, this we're not here to talk about Bill. So I assume that you got out of there because it's a great big world.
Out of Tucson?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Tucson was such a great place to. It's such a unique place, and it was so surprising to me because when I moved there, I didn't want to move there as a kid in high school, and I lived in Southern California before that, and all of a sudden I had to move to the desert, and it was like 1,000,000 degrees. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? I was just in Southern California, and now I'm in the desert, and it was a great place to like cut your teeth and like be in that was where I was in like my first bands and just just to grow to grow up as a and become a person in the world. It was a perfect place to experiment and freak out and run around. But yeah, I eventually was in a band, and we decided that from touring we would leave Tucson and tour a lot. That we loved San Francisco, and so we wanted to move to San Francisco. So or 91, I was in a band called Mountain Pig, and we moved to San Francisco. It was a great time to be in San Francisco. It was really
That's
fun.
an awesome time to be in San Francisco. I
It
bought a
really
whole sheet
was.
of bunk acid in 91 in San Francisco. It might have been
On Haight
92,
Street?
91 or 92 up on Haight because the
Yep.
Dead were playing
Yep.
nearby.
Yep.
I bought a bunk sheet of acid in Vegas and then went up to San Francisco and again bunk sheet.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll get ripped off there for sure. I was kind of over my acid phase by the time I moved there, thank God. So yeah, I took a ton of it in Tucson. That's where with Steve Miller, and
Yeah.
we did it together many times. But so I had gotten over that by the time I got to San Francisco, and it was more like, trying to get to work on Haight Street and people trying to sell me acid while I'm walking down the street. And I was like, get out of my way. Come on.
Where were you working at then?
I was working at, I worked at a bagel shop for a few years, and it was such an awesome place to work on Haight Street. I lived in the Haight, and I worked at a bagel shop on the corner of Haight and Masonic, which is one block down from Ashbury. And it was the place to work because my whole band worked there, the entire band, and like two other bands worked there. And like everybody that worked there was just, you could buy weed from the owner. Like you get your paycheck and then you could buy weed from him. They were like a couple of like old New York deadhead, like stoner guys, like Jewish guys from New York that like moved to San Francisco and had a very successful bagel shop and sold weed to their employees. And so it was like the dream. And they would give us like 2 weeks, 3 weeks off to go on tour. Because there was like a rotating cast they just hired like musicians and stuff. So there was all weirdos and freaks working there. Yeah. We had a blast working there. So I worked there for like 2 or 3 years. And then I worked at the Bong Shop, Pipe Dreams, right across the street.
Nice.
And then I worked at the two of the record stores on Haight Street, Reckless I worked at Reckless, and then I worked at the used clothing store, and everybody would barter with each other. Everybody on the whole street, like I'd be working at the bagel shop and the guy from the record store would come in and I'd give him a dozen bagels, and I'd go into the record shop and he'd hit me with like 2 or 3 free records. I'd go to pay and he'd be like, just go. So it was a great barter system.
Wasteland?
Yep. Wasteland was down there. Yeah. That was a great store. Yeah, all the cute girls worked at Wasteland.
That's why the name sticks in my head, probably.
Yeah. Yes, many. Yep.
What a time to be in San Francisco. Probably, I mean, arguably the best time, right?
Oh my God. It's funny. Like I'd say in the early 2000s, I would look back at the 90s and I'd be like, what was that? Like what, the 90s? What a lame time. Like, everybody dressed boring and I was just sort of like, thought it was just, I was like, how is this going to go down in history? How is this going to be remembered? And now I have a whole other, to me now the 90s is a really special time, especially being in San Francisco. I don't know. I guess because it was the very last era of non-digital age, so right. It's like, and it was probably the last time in San Francisco also, and this is why it was special in San Francisco, that it wasn't $1 million to live there. Like, it was still like, there were still like, you know, um, families that live there and different colors of people that live there. And like,
It was
it was like,
yeah.
it was still like I think it was the last time before the early 2000s and the whole late 90s, early 2000s, where there would be like a line down the street to look at an apartment, and like the .com boom and all that stuff. It just, it's still a beautiful, amazing city. No, I still love San Francisco, but yeah, that was a special time to be there for sure. It was
the tech stuff really put the hurt on that city, though.
I believe so. Yeah.
And I don't, I mean, I don't see a lot of good that it's done. It's supported some businesses there, but fuck, most of those people are ordering all their shit off Amazon and having it delivered,
Yeah.
especially in the last couple of years.
Yeah. It's a global thing, right? I mean, it's like,
yeah.
Seattle and like, New York City and like, everywhere. It's like everyone's, has suffered from it. Like you could say the same thing about all the great cities. But yeah, it was a special time to be there. And the 90s was a special time because we were still, like making a call on the phone booth and like,
using a Thomas guide for tour.
Exactly. And going home and like listening to your answering machine to see why your friend didn't show up to meet you with a cassette tape in it,
Right.
And like going to thrift stores and buying weird cassette tapes, like answering machine tapes to like listen to funny, like, I would do shit like that. Like
I absolutely did.
I'm sure you did. I feel like we're friends. I immediately was like, I know this guy, even though I don't know
friends.
You, but yeah.
Tell me about your band that you were playing in at this time. What were you guys doing?
So I was in a band called Mountain Pig, and Mountain Pig came out of the ashes of this band called Pollo Elastico in Tucson. And Pollo Elastico was like really popular, like the biggest band in Tucson for a few years. We were like basically like inspired by the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Bad Brains and 24/7 Spies and we were really into the funk, metal, hard rock thing in the early stages of it. So this was like 1989, 88, 89. So we would tour the West Coast mostly. We would play
San
with
Francisco
bands like
was an obvious place for you to go because
exactly
there was like Psychofunkopus.
Oh yeah, we played with them. Yep, we opened for them on the night they got signed to like Atlantic or something, and so at the Covered Wagon in anyways, but so it was an obvious place. We had played there many times on tour and loved it, and we were kind of getting the sort of like the itch to move. And we had actually a lot of we're being shopped around by. Back in the days when record companies would do like, oh, we're going to do a demo deal with you. And so It was like, Geffen Records and Triple X Records. And like, there were like 3 labels that were shopping us around for a demo deal. And in the height of all this, one of our members decided that he was just done with it, which was, and he just up and left to San Francisco and took our van that we all bought together, and he moved to San Francisco. And so he was the lead singer of the band. And he is to this day a dear friend, and we've mended all these situations that had happened. But so when he left the band, I was the young guy in the band who joined the band as the roadie, because they were my favorite band. And so I basically like kind of was good friends with their manager, went on tour with them, and basically would dress up like in these jumpsuits like Freddie Mercury and jump on stage and play the tambourine and sing backup to all their songs because they were my favorite Tucson band.
Sure.
And they after like one show, they were like, you should just be in the band. So I was like the hype guy. who like
Nice.
jumped around the stage and sang back up and played tambourine. And I had, hair down on my butt, and I was like, just shaking my ass. And so anyways, when Brad left the band, right in the middle of the height of the band, when all this great stuff was happening, we started a new band right away. We just immediately, we got to work. We started a new band, and we wanted to start something heavier. And I got to move up to the lead singer spot. And so I was now the singer of the band, and now we changed our name to Mountain Pig. And we were, Jane's Addiction, Nothing Shocking had just come out, and we are just floored by that album. And we were floored by Soundgarden, like back when they had like Loud Love before, before this was Loud Love, and their earlier EPs with like
That
Nothing
stuff
to
was
Say and all that
really,
shit. Just
you felt
Tad.
like things changing.
Yeah. We were so inspired, and we were like, all right, we're going a whole new direction. I'm the singer now. And so this was exciting for me. I was sad that the band broke up, but now I had my spot to step into. And so we quickly like moved to San Francisco also, like our old band member did. And we just hit the scene on Haight Street, and it was a really fun time to be there for sure.
How long before you dreaded your long hair?
Great question. You can totally see the evolution of this, like, coming.
I know it's coming.
Yes, it's coming.
I know it's coming.
I held out till about 94.
Wow.
I think it was 94. Yeah. And and that was around the time Mountain Pig broke up, I think. Yeah. Musically, I just kept evolving, and I've always started out from a place of rock and heavy metal, and I'll always love it and I'll always be there, but I'm never going to stop evolving. And so I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to do different things. I didn't want to just be like the front man. I wanted to play drums. I wanted to be in like 6 bands. I wanted to, I wanted to just do as much as I could. So out of the ashes of Mountain Pig, another band started with like 3 of the members. The guitar player left, and he still wanted to play straight hard rock. And we were really inspired by like the Flaming Lips, like when back in the early days when they were like a noisy psychedelic garage band. So I was like, we all kind of felt like, all right, less with the like, formulaic, like, heavy metal, like let's get experimental. Let's get noisy. Like, and so we started this band called Oats, which was like 6 people. We had 2 bass players and 2 guitar players. So on each side of the stage was like a guitar and bass rig. And one bass player, played like full, all sonic, weird, like he was super inspired by Hawkwind. He was the bass player of Mountain Pig. So he played all these weird, like, like spaceship sounds with his bass through all these crazy like analog effects that he had, he collected. And the other bass player was like a John Entwistle style, really like straight ahead, just bass runs. And we did this total psychedelic, like Flaming Lips. We were super loud, and we put out an album, we put out a single, we toured, all over the country. And
you were still singing. You didn't move back to drums.
I actually was playing guitar now. I went to guitar. Yeah. And so I sang on a couple of songs and sang backup, but I was excited to play guitar, and I was excited to like do something different and sort of, and then I had like 3 side bands going, at any given time. I played drums in a band. I played,
Was Oats the first time that you had like focused your energies on guitar playing, where that was your focus?
Yeah, it was. I'd always recorded like, I had a little band that the first time I did a side band, I had a band called Pearl, and we opened up for L7, and we played in Tucson. And that was the first time I started writing songs on like a thrift store guitar I bought. But this was the first band that I was like, the first real real band that I played guitar in. And and but yeah, I play guitar. Guitar is like a tool for me. I'm not like a shredder. Like, I've always been sort of like a Neil Young guitar solo, kind of like 3 notes, just like try to get as much, sustain as I can. And like,
But it must have
and
been like formative for you to have your first real hard focused band that you were playing guitar in be an experimental band where you didn't feel confined, like, oh, I have to do these plug and play sorts of things. Like I can just not worry about that. I can get weird. I can be.
it's true. It was very much, it went from like a band that was actually, we partied Mountain Pig and stuff, but like, we were pretty serious, like with shows and stuff. And this band was more like, we're all doing bong hits right before we hit the stage, and like, let's get as tripped out as possible,
Yeah.
And that was fun to be sort of more creatively free and open. And the other guitar player of the band, um, is these are all my dear friends to this day. Went on to play in a band called White Hills, who are really pretty popular and in New York. And so he was an incredible guitar player. And so I learned a lot from him, and learned the nuances of being a 2 guitar band, and like getting to play off each other, and like, like the cool rhythm things, because rhythm is really what I'm good at. So I enjoyed not being the lead guitarist, and enjoyed like dropping in at certain times and totally dropping out. And so, yeah, I learned a lot. You're right. And the band Oates also had the opportunity to back up this kind of famous New York no wave guy that you might or might not know of. His name is Von Elmo, and he was around back in the Max's Kansas City CBGB
That's a
days.
chosen name.
Yeah. You think? Oh man, this guy is, look him up. You will go down a rabbit hole. He is just absolutely like a freak, just a true freak.
So did he relocate to San Francisco?
He did not. He played a show in San Francisco, and we were all completely floored. His manager is Peter Crowley, who is the guy who booked Max's Kansas City. We immediately went to him after the show and said, we want to be Von Elmo's backup band when he comes back to San Francisco. And like 6 months later, he put out a new album, and that opportunity came. And it was really awesome, because we basically had to learn his entire album from like 1979, and just play with this guy who is like really just crazy, basically. Like, you don't know, you're a little bit scared, like playing with him, like being in a room with him. It's kind of scary. Like, you're like, he's just
like
a terrifying dude
with a wild animal.
Pretty much. Yep. Yeah. He give you like a picture of him. He wears a toupee. Okay. First of all, and he wears like a smoking jacket, like a satin smoking jacket. He's wearing a toupee. Yep. And he wears leather pants. And he wears a lot of cologne, like English leather cologne or something, like just bad. And he is this total New Yorker, Von Elmo. Listen, when I point to the sky, you take off. Okay, just take off. Don't do anything else. Just I point to the sky, you take off. And like it was.
Is that a musical cue? Take off, like go.
Yeah,
bananas?
just like go like Sun Ra, go like, Albert Eiler style, just like go fucking crazy. And he had these songs that were very like punk rock, almost like straightforward, like, and then it just turns into complete, just go insane, just totally go nuts. That experience absolutely melted my brain and totally made me like, inspired me to really like, I couldn't have done Borts Minorts without having that experience, having played
Right.
with this no wave dude named Von Elmo, who like, was terrifying and also really expanded my musical mind.
Before that experience came along, had you already gotten into any other outsider music?
What do you mean by outsider?
Well, like non-conventional.
Always. I have been
Yeah.
listening to like, you know, oh, I love
Captain
like the
Beefheart and Zappa and
yes,
this.
totally. I love Zappa. I memorized the like We're Only in It for the Money album. I know like I'm a huge fan. I love the Butthole Surfers. I love
Yeah.
like, just the weirder the better. Like I loved, finding his weird, I worked in record stores and stuff. So yeah, even though I played in this full on like, kind of grunge band or whatever. Like I always liked everything and just always kept it looking for weird shit and still do to this day.
So give me a time frame. You're still in San Francisco when Von Elmo comes out.
Yeah. This was like 95, I want to say.
Wow.
And so I'm in Oats, and we are the perfect band to back up Von Elmo. And he comes to town, and yeah, it really just it was very inspiring and expanded my brain. He had these songs, like this one song. This song's called Flying Saucer 88. And what's gonna happen is every time the song goes dun 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 dun, but you could play anywhere on the neck of the guitar. It doesn't matter. So you could, as long as it hits on time, that's what I'm looking for. Gong, 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 gong. So there's four dudes playing like
Four
all
different
different
notes.
notes at the exact same time, like with precision. And that is what I've really built Borts Minorts on. Like a lot of songs were very, very, very inspired by that concept, which I later found out he didn't invent it or anything. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Trumpet player. I'm sorry, Ornette Coleman, like would do a lot of stuff like that, and I listened to a lot of stuff like Ornette Coleman, Albert Eiler, Archie Shepp, like, I love that out jazz stuff. And
Full
yeah,
atonal,
yes, just
with mechanical rhythm.
Yes, exactly. Love that shit. So that really inspired me with Borts Minorts. But yeah, so this was 95.
How long? I mean, that planted the seed, and you were your young mind was exploding, right?
Totally, absolutely. It really was an eye opener musically, and I had to share the same side of the stage with him, and so that was scary too because
you could smell him.
I could smell him, and I didn't want to get his sweat on me, like because he was sweating profusely, and but I wanted to rock out, but I didn't want to be too aware of him. Like it was just, yeah, it was a good challenging experience. You should look up Von Elmo. You'll laugh really hard.
He smells strong because you could still smoke in the clubs back then.
Oh, exactly. Totally. Yep.
So how long after this experience before Borts Minorts takes flight?
Oh gosh, it wouldn't be another. Let's see. Well, I just realized this year has been 15 years of Borts Minorts. So there was a lot of other shit. I'm a geezer here, Mike. I was in like 32 other bands after that. I mean, after that, I was in a band called the Nads, which was just a straight up like Motorhead style, like meets punk rock band. I played drums in. Then I moved to New York and I was in a band called Sons of Matahari, and I was the lead singer. And that was like a sort of new metal kind of band, which was fucking awesome. And I don't know if you know Cosmo Demonic, but the guitar player singer of that, Sean Bosler, he was in Sons of Matahari, and I played drums in a band called Silver Summit with I was in like 38 other bands, but finally I moved back to San Francisco,
Oh,
and it would be 15 years ago, I just realized, and that's when Borts
wait a minute. So
Minorts
you
started.
you left San Francisco, went to New
I
York,
know,
and
it's
then
hard to
went back to
follow.
San Francisco.
So I left San Francisco in 99, went to New York, lived there till 2003, and then moved back to San Francisco, had my daughter there with my wife at the time. And that's around the time Borts Minorts started. Yep. So, and then I moved back to New York, and then I moved. Then I moved to Philly, then back to New York, then to LA, then back to New York again, and now I'm in Tucson again. This is really too much. I know.
Philly is a funny place to move
It
from
was.
New York.
It wasn't for me. It was a good experience. I
Yeah.
made it a year there. I
What
was
about
like, met
LA?
some good people. LA was a surprisingly, like, when I moved to LA, I didn't want to move there, and I moved there because my wife at the time got a great job. We had a family, so she took the job. We moved to LA. It was fucking awesome. I had the best time. It
Weather's
was
killer.
I mean, I had a bunch of friends there, so that helps. I think if I moved there and didn't know anyone, it would have been really hard. But I
Right.
did have a ton of friends already there, so that was great. I think I had one of the best musical years of my life, the year I lived in LA. I was in like 13 bands, and I had there was so many cool scenes happening, and Borts Minorts was just doing amazing there. I had a whole live band there that was like just crazy, off the hook, insane band. It was really fun.
And so what year was LA?
That was about 8 years ago, 2012 or something. Wait, shit, that was 10 years ago now. Oh my God. Yeah, I guess it
Wow.
was about 10 years ago. Yeah. So, yeah. And it was only there for a year. And then I went back to New York again. So,
So for people who are wondering
yeah, like,
what
who
we're
the fuck
talking
is this
about,
guy?
well, I want you to explain Borts Minorts.
Okay, here we go. Borts Minorts is the rock and roll savior. Borts Minorts is is the Borts Minorts is something that I channel that has always been there, and I didn't really know it, and then I finally figured it all out from all of my experience, how to create this thing that I channel, and so that's a good way to describe it. It's an accumulation of all everything that I've learned and that I am, but finally realized and continuing to evolve. But on another level, for an easy way to describe it, Borts Minorts is the rock and roll messiah.
I love that. Every time I see Borts Minorts, and Borts Minorts is a ball of energy and musical joy
Perfect.
that explodes.
Perfect.
So now, now that we've painted that picture, let's paint a picture, because also your presentation of Borts, the realization of this channeling is how outside of hearing the music, there's also that.
Yeah.
And that is a strong factor in the
Yes, it is.
delivery of Borts.
Right. So talk about the
Yeah.
image.
And talk, and you know, tell me how you landed there. Like,
Okay.
what experiences brought you to that?
All right.
Because there's a lot going on.
I know. It's hard. Yes. So This was 15 years ago. What is that? What's 15 years ago? I'm terrible at math.
2012. No, 2012. Fuck.
No.
2007.
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, something like
I'm
that.
a math wizard.
It's okay. Me too. So, besides music, like I said, I always just want to keep trying different things and having new experiences in the creative world. I had, I guess around 30, I decided to take an acting class, and I was a natural, we'll say, and sort of fell in love with that. Got really into acting in New York and weird experimental theater, which as you can see, this is evolving into the Borts thing. But around the time I did Borts, I was in a Shakespeare play, and I was in Love's Labour's Lost, and I played the buffoon guy. And there's a scene in the play where they're at a costume party, and my character is wearing supposed to be a unicorn, and so I was wearing a white spandex unitard in the play. So at the same time I was in this play, I got a new computer and I got GarageBand. And I decided I'm going to make a whole album of like super fast electronic dance music, which is something that I'm actually not into. It's not my thing. Yeah. I've never been like an electronic music guy. I appreciate like Kraftwerk. I appreciate really more on the fucked up side of electronic music, but I've never been like into house music or like,
But you have this tool set now and you can, so why not?
Exactly. Yeah. So now I've got GarageBand. I just got this new iMac. I got GarageBand on it and I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. Like I'm going to make all these ridiculous. I wanted to make like basically like punk rock, like Slayer or like punk rock or like just super fast, the fastest beats, but like take them and cut them up really messed up and create this really fast, messed up electronic music. And so I made this whole album. It just came out of me. I had a child at the time who was very young, and it was like I was sort of the stay-at-home dad. And so when she would be taking a nap or something, I would just work on another song, and I would like crank out another like insane, like weird electronic music song. And then the songs were like literally, they were pouring out of me. And also I was on the floor laughing because they were just to me, they were so absurd and funny. And I was writing these ridiculous lyrics that were hilarious. And it was just kind of like, I'd never done anything like that poured out of me like that. And so it was like, all of a sudden the album was done. And I started like thinking like, well, what am I going to call this? And when I was a little kid, my dad, he would say, that one guy that he came by the house, I can't remember his name, Borts Minorts. It was like his own Joe Schmo. Right. And so that name just popped into my head.
Came from?
So that's where the name came from. So all of a sudden I finished the album. Then I just remembered that it popped into my head out of nowhere, Borts Minorts. That's what my dad would call people that he didn't remember their name. So the name was there. And then I'm like, what is this going to look like live? If I ever got to do this, how would I do this? What would it look like? And I was really inspired by 70s modern dance. Like when I was a kid, I loved like on Sesame Street, like, what were they called? Moment shots? Or they were the weird people that wore the masks that were like really scary, and moment shots, I think is what it's called. They're like a weird French performance art like group that would be on Sesame Street in the 70s sometimes. Anyways, I was like, I'm going to start wearing like bodysuits. And at the time I was in the Shakespeare play. Now I'm looping back around. And I was like, oh my God, I've got this spandex jumpsuit. And so I put it on. It had the full hands like the 70s modern dancers would wear with the face thing like that. And so I've got all of a sudden I'm like, this is the look. At the time I had a big mustache.
This is the look.
Yes. I was like, I figured it out. So I got the albums ready to go. I've got the full like unitard, body unitard. And I had been making I've always made my own weird musical instruments. That's something I've always done on the side that's fun. I had just made this electric stand-up bass, out of a snow ski, and so that I incorporated that on the album. That was like my live music component to the electronic music was I do solos on the snow ski bass, and so the whole thing was just everything was falling into place.
How did
And
you
then
come into being in possession of a snow ski? Just out of curiosity, because
I was
you
walking my dog, and there was there was a big pile of trash in front of someone's house. They were like moving out or something, and there was a ski.
just
It was
one.
it's over there. I don't know if you can see it, but
It's the
it's
same
an
one.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's been with me for 15 years. It's solid. It's like a real 80s looking ski. So it looked perfect. And so I just saw it laying on the ground and I was like, that's the instrument. And so I worked at a sign shop at the time. So I took it in. I was like, hey guys, can you help me? I was the screen printer. I was like, can you guys help me cut this? Like, so we cut out a little space to put a pickup in it, a bass pickup. I put a bass pickup in it. I put a bridge on it and strung a bass string on it. And it was fucking solid. It's like, woo! You could like take the ski and like bend it and be like, woo! And just like it's like its own, it's like the tuning fork for the rock and roll messiah, Borts Minorts. So everything just fell together. And then out of the blue, I had been sharing on MySpace back in the MySpace days.
Sure.
My Borts Minorts, I made a page for Borts Minorts and I took pictures in my living room where I was smoking a pipe wearing the spandex jumpsuit and like just funny pictures. And all of a sudden I got offered a gig opening up for a Kiss cover band. And then that was it. It just like,
Wait a minute. This is like a full circle magic moment.
you know what? You know what's crazy, Mike, is I never even thought about that was my favorite band ever, and that would be the first band Bortz opened for was a Kiss. How did I not put that together? Thank you. Yeah,
That is like
exactly.
a lightning bolt moment. Like it was
God,
supposed to happen.
it was perfect. There were burlesque dancers and a Kiss cover band and Borts Minorts, and people freaked out. They loved it. I took all the ham and the cheese that I naturally exude, like from all my years of singing in bands, and I mean, I sang in like 30 other bands that I didn't tell you about. So, being a performer is like I'm a musician. I play a lot of instruments, and I'm a solid, good musician. But I'm really just a performer. Like, and so this was a way for me to like kind of pull together the acting and the music and while I was in this Shakespeare play, it was like a modern take on the Shakespeare play. There were dance numbers. So from being in this play, I got to meet dancers. And then I got the idea, oh man, I did the first show solo, but I'm like, I need dancers. So I got two dancers from the Shakespeare play and we got together and we choreographed, did like super intense choreography for every single song. And it was the most fun musically I've ever had in my life. Like I was on the floor, we were all on the floor crying, laughing, coming up with the most absurd dance moves. They were trained dancers, like went to college for dance and stuff. And like, we're beautiful dancers. And I was like, look, I want to tap into like my inner dancer. Cause when I was a little kid, I wanted to dance and I wanted to be a gymnast and it was like, I wanted to be in music and it was like, sort of like, okay, you just play soccer, and like, which I love to this day. I still love soccer, but this was like, oh, this is my ticket to like, I get to be a dancer now. I'm going to get to make up all these dance moves. And I think there's something great about like not having any training in something, but having like passion and enthusiasm to like just do it. Cause it feels like in your body, you already know how to do it. So
Well, it
that's what,
sounds like it was a ball of the pent up energy that that you as a child didn't get to express, right? Because how many children are classically trained dancers? There are some,
yeah,
but
exactly. It was like a way for me to like get to do all the things that I hadn't got to do yet in one band. So
so wait a
to
minute.
answer,
Also in a way, because you are not trained and and it's not unhinged. it's not improvised, it's choreographed.
It was all
It,
choreographed, which
it
was
also
different
is a
than what I.
little, it is the component of the Von Elmo experience, but physicalized, like brought to your physical movement.
It required some discipline, which was great. Like, and yeah, definitely, I think so. And musically, I would end up getting a bunch of musicians like Ralph Carney. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a horn player that played with Tom Waits, and
I don't know anyone.
yeah. Anyways, a lot of incredible musicians that I got to play with. So yeah, I did get so much from Von Elmo. So thank you, Von Elmo, if you're out there. But to answer your question, like you asked originally, how would you describe it or what it was? Once it all came together, and it did so easily, I had this vision that I wanted to bring to a rock and roll club, which is what I knew, which was where I came from. I wanted to bring to a rock and roll club something so like absurd and joyful, like you mentioned, but injecting like that was all about dance,
Right.
but injecting this like total David Lee Roth showmanship and like Iggy Pop, like danger, like,
Yeah.
and so that is what I live by to this day. Like every time, and that's where this channeling comes in. The second I would put on the suit, the jumpsuit, or now the wig or whatever how it's evolved. Whenever I put it on and step on stage, it's just like, I'm no longer me. I'm just like, and all of a sudden it's over in like 1 second. I'm like, and I'm sure you can relate to that feeling of just like when you're in it, so in it, and you're like, I don't even know what just happened, but it was fucking like, wow, it was fun.
How often do you get the opportunity to do that? I mean, I know that the last 2 years, not much, but
How often do I get to Borts?
yeah. Is do we
Um,
use it as a verb?
it is a verb. Sometimes it's a verb for sure. Um,
Chris is
uh,
bortzing.
yes, full on Bortsing. Well, there's been a couple times where I was like, you know what? I'm 46 and I think I'm done with sports. I'm going to put it away now. And I've tried to
Oh,
put it away, and like, it's just, it's now I don't even try. It has this life of its own that keeps going that like, so, but yeah, to answer your question, how often I get to do it now, I have, yeah, every few months, something like that,
awesome.
Yeah. So I have a couple shows coming up. I'm excited about.
So, was it your first or second time living in New York that you met Timo and
Oh
started that
shit,
friendship?
that's a great question. Oh god, this is a great story. I'm gonna make it quick. In 1990, when I was in Oats, so like 95, I had this friend, Paul Benny, who went to school in New York and was from New York, I believe, and was living in San Francisco. And he I don't know why, but he just one day he came up to me, or at some point, maybe I was interested in Sean Lennon or something. He came up to me and said, "You know what? You really remind me of this friend of mine, Timo. And Timo plays in a band with Sean Lennon. I'm going to bring their tape for you. It's a demo." And I was really, I was into Sean Lennon. I was interested. I'm a huge John Lennon fan, of course. And so I was like, oh, hell yeah, bring me that tape. The tape said Timo Ellis and Sean Lennon, Ema. And I was like, I put it on, and the first song I was like, oh, this is amazing. It was super Zappa-ish and like kind of just crazy and like frenetic and insane. And I was like, this is like it. I loved it. And so it would be 20 years before or more, I don't even know, 97. I met Timo in like probably um 7 or 8 years ago. I met him. So I don't know. It was 20
Oh,
years at
wow.
least later. I'm in New York, and Paul is in New York too. And he says, oh man, you got to see my friend Timo's band. I had told you about him all those years ago, and his band Netherlands. He's like, you're gonna flip out. You got to go see him. And
Vicious band.
it took me like, for whatever reason, like a year till I finally went to see them after of him bugging me like, dude, you got to go see Netherlands. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go see him at, whatever. I missed so many opportunities. I finally saw them play. And at that place that has, I can't remember it's somewhere in Williamsburg. Anyways, I'm not lying. I literally cried. It was so fucking good. I was like, it was like, when you see a band at the perfect time and it's like what your soul needs so bad, and they crushed it so hard. It was like, I hadn't heard anything like that like, I was like, yeah, just something about Netherlands music just connected super hard. Like I felt like a little tear. It's so fucking sick. I just lost it. Like my neck was sore for like a week. I just like totally like, was banging my head so hard. And, yeah. And then, we just immediately became friends and yeah. And so it would be a few years later that he would record this EP that we did together. But
So this is the first. So yeah, let's talk about the EP. But is this EP the first thing that you guys have worked on together? It's not, is it?
well, I am a photographer and I also make videos, and
Yeah.
music videos has sort of been my bread and butter for a long time. So I've made a couple of videos for Netherlands.
Awesome.
I also studied, I don't know if you know what Buto is. It's like an art form from Japan. I studied that for about 4 or 5 years, and performed with Netherlands as a Buto dancer at St. Vitus.
I saw
So
that. I saw. I don't know how many shows you did, but I saw one.
yeah. Yeah. So I performed. That was me, the weird guy with the white makeup on, rolling around on stage. So I performed with them as a dancer, and I also made videos for them, and also did photos for them. So we worked together in a lot of different ways. Timo and I would like, he'd make a new album and be like, you got to come over and like, sit there and just,
You get the full experience.
yeah.
I want to paint a
So
picture for people because I've also been in
you've been that guy.
I've been in the co-pilot seat. He'll put you in the like the studio chair there, and then he's got like 2 little studio monitors, but then he's got 2 PA mains up above, and when he listens to music, he blasts it at about 105 decibels through the PA mains.
Unbelievably fucking loud. And also, I think I was just listening to one of your shows where you were talking about how you have tonight, or you lost hearing from whatever. I was thinking cymbals. I think I've lost a good chunk of my hearing from Netherlands,
Timo.
actually, from listening to his albums. Like,
Right.
but yeah, so, yeah, he is, he's an inspiring friend. Yeah, he's definitely,
Prolific artist.
oh my God. And like, and working with him is great for me because he's such a perfectionist and has such a clear vision, and like accepts nothing less than 1,000%, which I love that. I appreciate that. And I'm totally not like that. So it's like, I'm like, sounds great. All right. Just like, and so like, it's been good. We've really like, I've made a ton of videos for him. So we have a full system. I totally know how he thinks. And I'm like, it's great. So he's taught me a lot too about, like this EP. Like I was just like ready to put it out on like, Bandcamp the day after we made it. And he's just like, no, wait, let's just sit on this and get a proper release. And like, so I really appreciate that about him. But yeah, so
whose idea was it to make the EP?
So we did a trade. I made a music video for Netherlands. The song is Moon Boy Swings, and he was going to record a little EP for me in the studio, which to me, I was like, that I love everything he does out of it. Like done. Like it's I was so fucking excited to record with them. So I showed up with 8 songs, which the EP is 8 songs, and which clock in about 12 minutes. And like just showed up and like just cranked it out, cranked all the basic tracks out, played all the drums, played the ski bass, sang on everything, did everything in one, like, 8 or 10 hour day, and then left it with him. Had no idea what he was going to do. And I totally like trusted him. I just said, all right, I just cranked out all the basic tracks. Here's some ideas I have, but you don't have to stick with them. But, like, just go to town, just go fucking crazy with it. And it was, I don't know, 5 or 6 months later or something, finally, when it was totally done, he didn't play me anything until it was totally done. And I just fell out of my chair. I was just
You had no idea what
I have no idea. There were like 3 songs that were like, he just really, like, it truly is I mean, they're all Borts songs and they're my songs. And, I laid out all the basic tracks, and then he just Timo'd them
Right.
and just totally, like, and I love what he did with it. And I knew it was going to be so sick, and he did not disappoint. And so I just let him go to town and have fun with it. So that's what it's all about, right?
I think so. Well, I love it. I have to assume that you made the video.
Yeah,
the video is very
yep.
cool.
Yeah,
I have so much to learn.
Yeah, I made the video. I've made all the Borts videos. Yeah.
What program do you use? Let me ask you that.
Final Cut.
You do?
Yeah. It's not like I used to love Final Cut when it was like their Final Cut editing suite 7 or something like that. And then all of a sudden it was like Final Cut Pro X, and they like kind of dumbed it down sort of and made it look like iMovie.
Right.
But I had got it was sort of like I couldn't use my program anymore because it was crashing, and I'd been editing on that forever. And then I got a new computer. And so, when you order a computer, you could like pick what programs you want on there. And I was just like, all right, let's just do the new Final Cut. So yeah, so it is what it is. I edit with Final Cut, and it's cool. It's got some good things about it. Yeah.
I think I don't use it very effectively.
Yeah.
I use it like a 4-track cassette recorder, and I'm constantly bouncing tracks.
Right.
Probably a proper video
editor. You do real well with what more do you need? Whatever you need to do, you're doing it good. So
I don't have a very effective workflow. Don't tell
anybody, because I was going to say I couldn't notice. It looks great.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Is that something that you taught yourself to do?
Yeah. I pretty much. Yeah. I went to school for it for a year, but it was like the whole year I was there, like we did. So I decided to go back to school for video editing because I got really into it just on my own using iMovie. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go back to school and like do a proper degree for video editing. And I went for 1 year at Academy of Art in San Francisco. And it was like the very end of the year, we finally edited our first thing. And it was like, this is like, it was cool because I learned about like some real basic stuff that like kind of stuck with me, like in, when I'm shooting things and when I'm editing things and, but yeah, it was sort of like, wow, okay, so we did the first year, I did one editing project, and now I owe like $10,000 or something. I was like, so I just like that was so stupid. So I just dropped out and just started editing. It just was like, why do I have to go to school for this? Like, just do it. Like, I don't know. So now I'm still paying that off, that 1 year. But, I know now when I watch like, like Orson Welles, movies, like how the editing flow works and stuff from, things like that.
Can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine editing a film and scoring a film when it was all film?
How cool, right? Like I think it's a great thing for any, like if you're a photographer or a video maker or whatever, to work in film, just to give you that perspective. Like, I mean, just taking pictures with film, like, it makes you so much of a better photographer digitally, because you really understand, like, photography and film is actual real magic. It's like, you have to think so intensely about every decision you make with lighting and how it's all going to work, you know. So yeah, it really is, like, it is amazing to think about that. Yeah, just, I've got to, you know, I have friends who are editors that worked with film, and it's like it's really cool hearing their stories about, you know, working on feature films and stuff that were famous or whatever, that I've seen, that, like, yeah, just what it was like. But yeah, it definitely is a great thing to work with real film, to give you a perspective if you're into that.
Have you messed around with any stop motion animation or claymation or any of that kind of stuff?
Um, I have, in my videos, I've done some stop motion, like real basic stuff, like, like literally push the button, move like a half, inch, push the button, over and over, and doing like weird, like, stop motion stuff for sure, but not really claymation. Yeah,
Oh, you mean
but
like yourself moving around?
yes, like, or the subject of the video, like doing
Right.
like stop motion where they're, or they jump in the air and shoot it for 1 second and then land and then jump in the air again. And like, so they're flying and,
Right.
things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. What a what a time consuming thing, but
Yeah, for
when it
sure. But
comes together,
the
it
payoff is
just
pretty cool.
it's really cool.
Yeah. You just have to, like, have patience and commitment to it, or, or it'll be like 3 seconds long. And you're like, okay, let's get on to the next. And then you go to edit it and it's like, oh shit, we should have done that for like 2 more hours.
Okay. Have you always been the kind of person that has had the patience for the final outcome on a project?
Not really. I
Right.
I yeah, I've always been challenged with that, and I love those challenges. Like, I like to be challenged. I just like to crank shit out. Like, I to me, it's not about being perfect. It's about, like, capturing, like, a feeling and emotion, and giving it out to the world, and then just making more art, It's like, and that's I think that's a beautiful thing. And then it also is like, well, you could be a lot more, successful maybe if you, focus longer on, on something, and, like, and see what else could come out of it. Or, like, I've definitely, like, gotten better at it, but my gut wants to just, like, I get inspired, I want to do something, I want to make it, and then, I want to move on to the next thing. And
Right.
so, yeah, but there are certain things that I like. Right now, I am making a documentary, and that is a long process that you can't just just move on from. It's like, it's already taken me, I've been working on it for a year, and it's gonna be, I'm sure, another year. But but it's cool.
But it's about the music
It's
scene
worth it.
there in
Yeah, it's
Tucson.
about the 80s, like 80s underground music scene in Tucson. It's kind of about the party houses that were really a place for young people to sort of, before the digital age, to find each other. And I'm sure you're from Seattle, right?
I mean, I eventually landed in Seattle,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah.
when you were a young man, I'm sure wherever you were, there were, like, those versions there as well. Like, you know, so yeah, it's kind of about the DIY music and underground music scene, and the party houses, and how, like, young people found each other. And, if you weren't in the mainstream and you were sort of in the alternative anything underground before the word alternative.
Right.
Yeah. So
What
it's
it
pretty fascinating.
it was called college rock back then.
Totally. Yep. You're right. It was like, that
Because
was,
only college radio would play it.
you're right. Yep. Totally college rock.
Do you and Timo have any intentions of performing this music live? Is there any
Oh,
talk or plan? Is there any plan?
that would be so cool. um, Timo, let's do it. uh, I sure hope so. That would be incredible. I mean, we've performed together on the same bill, and and um, a bunch of times, Sports and Hug Victim, and also Netherlands. But yeah, that would be the dream, right? That would be so cool. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but maybe I could come out to New York or something.
Why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
I don't really want. Yeah, except that I don't really want to go to New York, except
Not
for
right
maybe to play
now.
with. I know, not really. I'm happy
It's
here.
going to be 60 this weekend.
All
It's
right,
20
that's
right
good
now.
news. That's hopeful. It's 20.
Nothing to worry about, though.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here. uh, Tell me about the stuff that I am always so stoked about seeing on social media that you're making, where you're playing all the instruments.
Yeah, that's
And
why we're sort of like, when I saw Couch Riff stuff, I was like, I think it was like when Timo played the Red Hot Chili Pepper song or something. I was the first time I saw it. And yeah, so we definitely, yeah, I love making these videos. I think it started during when the pandemic first started. I couldn't work. So, there was the lockdown in New York. So I got this idea to make this album. And what it was the album is called Shit's Fucked, and it's on my Bandcamp. And what it is I love like old stereo audio stuff, like reel to reel players. I love 8-track players. I love vinyl. I love 78s. I love like old obsolete weird stuff. So I have a reel to reel collection, and I had this reel to reel of calliope sort of like circus music played on like a Wurlitzer organ. And the reel to reel broke. So what I did was I made a tape loop on my reel to reel. I just had a bag of tape that was all like came off the reel. Was just, I would take a piece of it, make a loop, and then I would record it for 2 minutes. And then I would take that recording on my phone and I would load up my car with like the ski bass and my weird stump see that weird bass back there? That bass I made with one string, that's a cabinet door, all the weird instruments I make. And I have a drum set. I collect weird stuff that sounds good, like pots and pans that sound good. I have a whole drum set of stuff like that. I'd load up the car with the weird instruments and with the tape loop in my phone. And I would just find a cool corner in Greenpoint or wherever. And I would just set up my shit and I would play just without thinking about it. I just sit on the drum set of pots and pans and start playing drums to the tape loop of the Wurlitzer organ. And then I would just start adding instruments on street corners. And so I would have a whole song where I'd be playing all the instruments. And the next thing I knew, it was like such a surreal time because there was no one on the streets except for me making this weird music. And I had a whole album worth of material and like 20 videos or something that to go with it of me playing all the weird instruments to the Wurlitzer organ tape loops. So
how were you
that
recording
album Shit's
it on a
Fucked
laptop?
is. Oh yeah, I was just recording it live with through like an iPad. So like, or I would set up my camera and I would do like I'd set up my camera and I'd have like a little Zoom recorder and I'd record on this, just real, it's real crude sounding but sounds pretty good though. But it's definitely live on the street. So you can hear cars going by and shit. But if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see a million videos during the lockdown of me on the streets playing. And so you can hear you can also just get the audio of it, which is the album Shit's Fucked. Yeah, so that kind of got me into it. And then I moved out to Tucson a year ago, and nobody really, everybody was still, staying at home mostly.
Yeah.
And I got this music studio inside of an airplane hangar out in the middle of the desert. That's where I am right now.
You're in
And
the middle
so,
of you're in an airplane hangar?
yeah, so if I open that door right there, there's like 2 airplanes right there.
That's incredible.
It's really, really cool. So sometimes I make a video in the airplane hangar and the sound is just like, it's huge. So yeah, so all my videos of me playing all the instruments are in the studio, which I call Middle Earth Studio because I have a fascination with Tolkien. And so, yeah, I just kept kind of doing the one man band video thing because nobody wants to jam because of COVID. So I got to start my own band.
And let me ask you this, only because you mentioned Middle Earth and you said you're a Tolkien fan. This new thing that's coming, this is not part of this isn't canon, right? This isn't.
I just found out about it. I'm really excited. I think it's all like
Pre-Hobbit.
Middle Earth. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So
this isn't. This is like some new creation, though, right? This is new storyline. There's not a book before Hobbit.
No. Well, there
I'm not
is
imagining
the book.
this, right?
Yeah. No, there is another book that covers all of the. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of it. That covers all of the timelines of all of the characters, like Galadriel and like like all the different characters. Like so. Silmarillion, thank you. Whew, I was going to go crazy if I could. So the Silmarillion is a book that Tolkien wrote, which is basically follows like the lineage of all the elves and the dwarves and like. So I think it's based on the Silmarillion.
It's the Book of Begats.
Yes, the Book of Begats. Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm excited. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm ready.
I'm glad that you're excited. I'm always skeptical.
I am too, but I just like a total fantasy nerd. Like,
were you a Star Wars kid?
Oh yeah, I saw it in the theater in 1977. Oh. Was it 76? 77 when it came out. Yeah. 7 years old. I know. With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight? Your eyes can deceive you. Let go your conscious self and act on instinct. There you go. Straight up nerd.
Good.
Yeah.
Of all the post, of all the Disney era stuff.
I've never even seen any of that stuff.
Oh,
and
really?
I can recite Star Wars. Yeah. I kind of just gave up. I hate to say it. Like
what about the last 3 Star movies? Wars? None of it. No.
Yeah, just not so into it.
There's a series coming called Obi-Wan.
Okay.
And I'm excited about that.
Okay. I should just do it because like I know people that I like their opinion. They're like, oh no, Chris, you gotta check it out. So
the Mandalorian series was good.
People loved it.
I really liked it. The Book of Boba Fett, not as good.
Okay. What about the one like the Han and Chewie story or something? Or like, wasn't there a movie about Han Solo?
People shat all over that one because they thought it was... Look, in the first movie, there were Jawas, right?
Right.
And the cantina.
Yeah.
But the cantina was a little sinister because people were getting fucking killed there. There was a weird shit going on. There was like weird alien hand jobs happening in that place. Like it was creepy, It was a creepy place. And then in the second movie, there were Ewoks.
Right.
And in the third movie, the Ewoks were in the third one, right?
Yep, of course. Yeah, Return of the Jedi.
I don't remember what was in the second one.
Can we just quickly talk about like George Lucas, like he went back and he was like, no, we're going to take the Ewok theme song out. We're going to put in some like pan flute stuff. I'm like, you can't do that. You can't go back and change the movie.
Yuck,
you know what I mean? It's just like, what? That always bothered me. But
so when people,
I like the Ewok theme song.
It was like a sing-song thing.
I'm not.
Yeah, that's it.
Ewa, don't mean nothing. I sing don't Ewa, something like that. Oh, my Master Luke. Hey, I'm a Luke tonight. Oh my God.
people shat all over the prequel movies
Yeah,
because
those are
there were funny
terrible.
characters. They weren't great, but when I go back
Jar
and I
Jar
watch the
Binks.
second and third ones, the book 2 and 3,
Yeah,
it's not that bad, and I like the
yeah,
way. I mean, there's just he tried to tell too much story
yeah,
in that span of time. Like you need more development with a character like Darth
yeah.
Vader.
Yeah. I saw them all in the theater. I counted. I remember when the Jar Jar one, the first one, like, came out. I literally had a calendar. I was counting the days, like Xing them off the count, and I was so excited. And I went with my friend, and he like dressed up like Darth Maul or something. We were like the biggest nerds on opening day. And then I remember it was over, and we were all kind of like, that was good, right? Yeah, yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
And we were all just like trying to kind of talk ourselves into that it was good, but we all knew it was not good.
I saw it at the Cinerama in Seattle, and I played a show that night, and then it was like 1:30, and it was
Yeah.
playing 24 hours a day at the Cinerama, you know? And so
You
it was
went to see
opening
that
night.
movie at 1:30. Oh, Jesus.
No, I saw it at like 3:30.
Oh my
I was up
gosh.
all night, and you can imagine my disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What years did you live in Seattle?
I moved there in 93, and I moved away in 2015.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that Solo movie, people love to shit on it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. But the one that is actually really fucking great is the other one. It was called like A Star Wars Story. And it
Okay.
was essentially the story that led up to Princess Leia having the plans for the Death Star in her hand and loading up R2-D2. And
Ah,
so the last scene of this movie led up to the first scene of Star Wars. And it was
that's pretty cool.
when I saw it, when it happened, the arms on, like, I've gone back and watched it. We have a projector and a screen, once a month I'll just go watch that scene. I'll fast forward all the
Wow.
way through that
You're
movie,
making me
and
kind of want to check it out.
it's really good. It's
Okay.
really killer. And it's got a
Cool. I
good
didn't even know
cast.
about that. That sounds pretty
It's
cool.
called like Rebel fucking Base, or I don't know what the fuck it's called. But it's great. You know what?
Cool.
I'll send you the name of it in a message.
Awesome.
That's
You
of
okay in
all of
there,
them.
R2?
Of all of them, that one is really great.
Cool. All right. I didn't even know about it. I'm ready.
I recommend it.
Maybe that's what I should do, is check out all the Star Wars movies that I didn't
Why
see.
not? You could
Yeah.
subscribe to Disney for 1 month and watch them all.
And then just cancel it.
Yeah, $8
Yeah.
or whatever,
Right.
Why not?
Yeah.
What do you have planned this year? You don't seem like a fellow who's going to sit on his hands long.
Wow, what a question. Oh, what do I have planned? Wait a second. Holy shit. Oh, well, to make this movie. Really, that's my plan. That's my big plan.
That's your
Yeah.
focus, is it?
Yeah, I gotta do this because I'm deep in it. I just finished all the interviews. I've got like 35 interviews, and it's sort of like my gift to to give back to Tucson, like just tell the story, to sort of capture some history and yeah, but make it interesting, because there's a million not interesting documentaries. So I want to make it really creative and really visually interesting. I just watched that documentary about the Velvet Underground. I think it's on iTunes or something. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it. It's on
Yeah,
the Apple TV, right?
Apple TV. Yeah, it's It's a great documentary. It's really good, and the way it's edited, the style was really inspiring to me because I don't have that much footage to work with. So it gave me a lot of inspiration on how to visually capture the time of Tucson without necessarily having the footage of the people I'm talking about but I have a lot of cool, weird, creative editing ideas and choices that I want to do. So yeah, so my main goal really creatively is to get this movie done. Um, but I'm sure that all along the way I'll be making music and you know, that's what I do. That just happens.
Will there be will there be scoring on the film that you do now, or will you be using archival music?
I'm going to use both. I actually have a lot of like soundtrack stuff that I've done that would be great to use. I just made an album this last year um, uh, called Let's Be Nice. That's the one I did after Shit's Fucked. And that one was really inspired by punk rock because I was getting into this movie and I wanted to go back and just make a straight up like Circle Jerks album, basically.
Yeah.
Or just make a like 1 minute, 30 second, bashing punk ugly sounding album that was just, but there's a lot of great catchy songs on it. But anyways, there's some instrumental stuff on there that's more surfy. And so I'm going to use some of that stuff. But yeah, I've been given also like a huge catalog of music from Tucson, from these bands of the time to use also. So I'm definitely going to use mostly that stuff, but some of it will be soundtracky
Awesome.
stuff. Yeah, which I've done a bit of on my own, just doing for like podcasts. I've done songs for movies, for independent films. I've made a couple of small independent films I've done music for. And so it's fun to do that kind of stuff.
Have the folks you've talked to, have they shared in your excitement for the nostalgia and for capturing and telling the story of that time, or have people had old person's disease and they've been like, "Oh, what do you want to talk about that stuff for?" How's the
I'd say
response
most
been?
people are super excited
Awesome.
that this is happening. There has been a movie made about Tucson music that was kind of more broad, that kind of like covered many decades. It's called High and Dry. If you're interested in seeing it, I'm not sure how you can see it, but um, so there has been movies made about Tucson music, but this is going to be more focused on that era
Yeah.
of the 80s. And so yeah, so people are really excited. Mostly there's a lot of times I interview people and they're like, God, it was a long ass time ago. It was like 30 something years ago, so like
Right.
I'm not sure how much I remember, and I was pretty
Altered.
wasted. Yeah. And so but it's amazing how much stuff comes back, and I get a lot of the same common threads throughout, which is really cool to hear from people. And, you know, yeah. So,
So your whole documentary is about the underground music scene there. What is the most famous band to ever come out of Tucson?
well, let's see. I mean, most recently, the most famous band to come out of Tucson would be like Calexico.
Right.
Um, so, but no
Are
one
friends of
ever,
Dean Martinez from Tucson?
you got it. Yep. Great band.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that band.
I love that band too. And, that's sort of an incestuous scene. Those same people play with Calexico, a lot of the same players.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that.
yeah, they're all, friends and have played with each other and stuff. Yeah. And I love their first album. I I I still have it on vinyl. I've listened to it like 10,000 times. It's If you want to know, actually, if I was to pick one album for me that would sum up a summer in Tucson, I would pick that album. The first, Friends of Dean Martinez. If you want to know what
After
it's
they had to
like.
change their name.
Right. Right. Yeah, it really is just it just captures the the desert heat and just like the stillness and the beauty. It's a beautiful album. And so yeah, Tucson is very unique musically. It's such a unique city. Even with punk bands and stuff, there was something about the bands that was just, Phoenix was the big city, and it was sort of more cookie cutter like punk in the scene and what you were supposed to look like and what the band sounded like. And Tucson, I find, because it's the smaller town, it's just funkier. It's just, there's more weird acid in the music, and like it's just stranger. There's a lot. It's that's my take, but yeah, there's not a lot of people that have made it out of Tucson, which is kind of cool too. It's like, I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of big
cool
names.
Town.
It is, for sure. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's surrounded by mountains.
Yeah.
And, I love it. The sunsets are incredible. And, but yeah.
So being back there has been positive.
Oh God, I love it. I was really done with New York, and I'll love you always, New York, but I don't miss you for a second. And my daughter just graduated high school, and it was like the COVID thing, and it was the perfect time to move to Tucson. My partner and fiance, her dad, has 10 acres out here, and he's getting old and needs help. And he has a guest house and just invited us to move in. And so we live way out in the desert, and there are like, coyotes howling every night, and there's like hawks flying over, and there's rattlesnakes in the summer. You got to be careful. And there's javelina. Do you know what javelina are? They're these giant, these big, they're actually not pigs, but they look exactly like wild boars, but they're actually, I believe, from the rodent family, but they're just look up javelina.
It's like a giant rat.
I guess they're technically from the rodent family, but they look exactly like pigs. They have snouts.
Rat the size of a pig.
Kind of, yeah. If you looked at one, you would just think it's a wild boar. It has a flat nose. It looks exactly like a pig. It's got hair on it, like it looks like a wild boar. But it's called a javelina.
Miss New York.
Not for a second. I love it. Where I live, like there's like you go for a bike ride for like a half an hour and you don't even see one car. It's like, and the sunsets, the sky is just huge and gorgeous. And like, if I want some action, there's like, there's some freaks and weirdos downtown Tucson, and there's a great little music scene. And, I know a ton of people here from when I lived here a million years ago, still making music. And
everywhere in the world is an airplane ride away.
Right. Exactly. So, and my daughter just moved here. So now everything's here.
Oh, that's
amazing. I'm psyched. Yeah. So she just came here to go to school. So I'm psyched.
She's going to school there.
Yeah.
What's she going to school for?
She's going to school to become an esthetician.
An esthetician.
Which is like, skincare and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christine.
So
my wife is Christine, and she does skin stuff.
Oh,
and makeup.
Cool. Yeah. My daughter does makeup too. But she's going to esthetician school. So she'll do facials and stuff in a salon. And, but she's a musician. She's an amazing singer. She has a really soulful voice. And, I'm also doing this little side project album for her. That's just, just covers that she loves. So she can, have her own little album, because she's a very talented singer, and she plays ukulele and she plays guitar. And so she's a musician, but she's also...
How exciting is that for you to get to play music with her?
Yeah, there's nothing better than to play music with your kid. And it's really, truly like one of the happiest times is sitting down and playing music together.
I can't play music with my dogs.
But dogs, though, Pink Floyd did it at that one song on, I think it's on Metal, where there's the dogs like the hound dogs in the background while they're playing.
Well,
I
they
can't
also
remember
did
the
it
name
on the on dogs,
Oh, there
on
you go.
animals.
Yeah, I always forget about. And for some reason, I kind of skipped over animals. It's so weird.
Oh,
Like
really? That's a fucking.
I know. I don't know why I did that. It wasn't on purpose. I just like kind of just never. I just never got animals.
Here's the
I not
thing.
I didn't get it. I just didn't physically get it.
Oh,
Yeah, like I
when
had
I
Meadow, I
think
had
like, oh,
More, I had
I want to
Sid
work on
Barrett.
us on music that sounds like Pink Floyd. Almost always, I never grab an electric guitar. I think an acoustic guitar with synthesizers happening, and that's what
Yeah.
that record is all about.
Oh, cool.
That's a magical album. It's one. I
I
think
need to
it's.
I need to do it. So yeah, because I live so far out. When I go downtown to visit people, it's like an album length basically for me to get downtown. So I've been
Yeah.
doing deep dives of albums that I missed, like that I never kind of got into. And aren't there albums like that for you where you're like, for some reason, I just never listened to this one, And
Sure.
so Animals will be a perfect one for me to listen to.
Oh, it's good.
I
It's
just
not
did
a
one.
long album either.
I just did a deep dive of Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell because he died.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I know Paradise by the Dashboard Light. What's going on here? I knew like the song from Rocky Horror, but I was
Give
never
me the
like
quick review. What's your review?
I fucking love it.
You do.
It's so schmaltzy and over the top
Uh-huh.
and like the production is ridiculous. And I guess what's Todd Rundgren plays guitar, which I didn't realize.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, but he's an incredible singer. I mean, just his voice is insane. And so I enjoyed it. It's
Yeah.
totally over the top and schmaltzy is the word I would use, but very enjoyable.
I just
Yeah,
remember that as a kid, the album cover was fucking amazing. And so,
exactly.
like you get it or I didn't get it. My friend of mine got it. And we were like, oh, we're going to listen to this. It's going to kick ass. And then it didn't kick
Kind of
ass
doesn't.
in the way you wanted
Right.
it. It didn't sound
That's the
like Iron
same.
Maiden or Halloween or,
Exactly. Exactly. The same with like Molly Hatchet. That album cover was terrifying, right? And then you put it on,
Not
you're like, what the fuck?
cruising down the road, not burdened with disaster. It was like,
Exactly.
what is
You're like,
this?
what is this? Exactly. You're like, this is the scariest album cover ever with like grandpa
Boogie
music.
rock. Yeah.
But yeah, give me Iron Maiden any day.
Mhm.
I mean, fuck yeah. That's my jam right there.
What was the last metal concert you saw?
God, let's see. Uh, well, I haven't seen too many shows in the last year. Like,
Right.
so it would have been in New York and, fuck, let me think here. Oh, I love metal and man, I'm drawing a blank
Well,
right
it's
now.
okay.
Yeah, but,
But if you're cruising down the road, flirting with disaster, are you listening to? You still enjoy some metal?
oh my God, every day.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, I'm a classic metal guy.
I did love your metal Masterpiece Theaters.
Oh, thank you, Masterpiece Metal. Yeah.
Masterpiece.
So yeah, so I'm a huge Dio fan. I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. I'm a huge Black Sabbath Dio fan.
Yeah.
I love Slayer. I'm a big Slayer fan. I love Iron Maiden. I love classic metal, really. I love um I I I absolutely one of my favorite bands in the world is The Darkness. I am
Oh
so
yeah.
ex- and I mean I just think that they're like such sick musicians. Like Justin Hawkins is just a ridiculous guitar player and ridiculous singer
Great
and
singer.
great songwriter. Like, I mean, I love power pop and they're basically like a power pop metal band. And they've been making albums, like they have like 7 albums now. Their new albums so kick ass. And I got tickets to see them. I'm really excited.
Also, not afraid to wear a unitard.
Exactly. He's my
You guys
people
have
for
that in
sure.
common.
Yep,
You guys
totally.
share the
Yeah.
affinity for Unitard.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I got tickets to see them on March 12th. I'm so excited. That would be my
Oh,
first
that's awesome.
metal concert in like a year or something. Also, my friend's doing sound for Yob, who is playing in New York soon, which
Monday.
Netherlands are playing with. Yeah, and so my friend is their sound guy, is their sound man, and so they're playing in Tucson. So I'm going to go see them. So I'm
Oh,
excited for
that's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Um, yeah,
It's it's 10 here and I need to
yeah,
walk my dogs, Chris.
yeah. I need to go pee. So
Yeah.
too much
I
information.
that's
Sorry.
one thing that I've learned. The biggest lesson I've learned from doing a podcast is
It's just have a little milk jug down there where you
no, my
can't see.
microphone is sensitive. Uh take care of business before you start.
Right.
I appreciate you not running away or
Oh,
fidgeting.
no.
You're a
I'm good.
professional.
I'm good. It's
You
just
rose
it's
above it.
perfect timing right now. I'm ready to go.
Uh,
Well, God, I hope
I've had an awesome time talking with you.
oh man, it was so much fun talking to you. It's a great honor. I love Couch Riffs. I love what you're doing. I love getting turned on to new music from your podcast. And I love hearing about other artists and how they do it and what inspires them. That's inspiring for me. So thank you for giving me that. I totally dig Kendra Morris too from
Oh,
I got
dude,
she's
she's
awesome.
great.
I got into her from her Jeff Buckley cover, and who else? I've got into a few different people from from your podcast. So thank you.
Well, thank you for thank you. I'm happy. That makes me really happy because
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like
definitely. You're doing a
I
great
have to
thing
do
over there.
this.
Yep, you're doing great work, and it's an honor to be to 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 get to talk to you and tell you my confusing, long, boring story.
Well, you're great. The EP is fucking fantastic.
Oh, thanks so much.
And
Yeah.
our Couch Riffs episode is our performance episode is almost done. It
Oh, I can't
is
wait.
it is
It'll be so exciting to see who is in the band, who's in the band with me.
just some background vocals away.
Oh shit.
Otherwise it's
Awesome.
done. Yeah, pretty
Cool.
exciting.
Yeah, I'm so psyched.
We got percussion, we got everything. It's all
Oh,
there.
it's going to be so rad. I can't
It's
wait.
hot. It's red hot.
Cool. Thank you,
So,
Mike.
yeah, thank you again for giving me so much time. Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
the
And if you're
awesome
ever in
EP.
Tucson, you have a friend, hit me up.
I absolutely and most certainly will. I'm
Okay,
gonna
cool.
stop our recording.
I'm going to walk away.